And there we are. Let me fix that bit. Welcome back to Slow News Day Live. I'm Steve Poikonen. I am here in the Santa Cruz Mountains for about another week, and then it's into deeper woods, and I can't be fucking happier about that, man. Both of my co-hosts are off for the afternoon. Gloria's got family stuff. I think Allie does too. My family is up the road and sick of me. So I am here with Reed Coverdale, who has had a very exciting week, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit. It's good to see you, man. Well, welcome back. We had you on for a giant panel, and like hardly anybody got a word in because let's be honest, Burmis is a pretty verbose fella. Shout out, Jay. But I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad we get a chance to hang out and talk a bit. How you doing, man? Oh shit, muted. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm alive, which is a week ago tonight is a good thing because I shouldn't necessarily be alive. I had a pretty bad car accident and I walked away from it unharmed. So just grateful to be alive, not paralyzed, not missing a leg or even a broken bone or anything. So I'm doing good.
Yeah, I watched your video. I think it was outside a hotel or something where you were talking about it, and it can go so many different ways, and the exact way that it went for you, but I don't know if it could have turned out any better, and so whatever good juju you got around you, bottle that shit and make it a part of a naturalist capitalist subscription.
There we go.
Fucking
it'd be like Alex Jones supplements that he sells. Same idea.
Somebody asked me, I was in a voice call last night, and they were like, what do you think Alex Jones is? And I was like, I think that Alex Jones is a supplement salesman. And they were like, oh, God damn it. Yeah, well, I mean, besides that, is he an opposite of this? Is he that? I'm like, I think he's an entertainer, and I think he got sucked into some fucking right team, left team bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think trying to pretend like it didn't happen is just making the show sad.
Yeah. I kind of feel the same way about him. I don't think he's an agent or something. I think he's, like you said, an entertainer, and he's kind of, I'm going to say, a useful idiot. And I think he kind of distracts from real problems because what he does is he makes these outlandish claims that end up being somewhat true, especially compared to the bullshit narrative that we're sold by the mainstream media. But then what that does is people look at that correlation and they bring it to absolution. So they think like, oh, this little bit is true, so everything that he's saying is true. That's how you end up with QAnon or, crazy out there stuff like that. And I don't know, to me, that's almost more harmful than the mainstream media because the mainstream media is just so obviously bullshit. And I think it's easier to wean people off of that than it is to wean them off the craziness on the other side.
Yeah. And by it almost makes it, or kind of does make it by default, a limited hangout. Because what it does is that even when he's right, because he's the person saying it, it discredits the information.
Right.
Just by virtue of it being Alex Jones that put it out there. And Alex Jones is on Rockfin now, and I'm stoked for that. I am, because I think it's going to bring a lot of people to the platform, and it's going to allow for the opportunity to be there for people who have been kind of down in the rabbit hole, to see a bunch of us that are on the platform here that don't do that are just here to put out the best possible information as we see it, by talking to independent journalists, by talking to people who fucking are out there every goddamn day, by going on the ground ourselves and talking to people. And I don't know, man. I mean, I'm trying to be optimistic about it. It could be worse. It could be worse. We could have like only YouTube.
Yeah.
We could, and that's shitty. I We ended up spending a decent amount of time on the show this morning talking about the Medicare for all thing, but I did want to get your take on that and what you just kind of how you feel about the healthcare situation in the US. I will preface it by saying that, like, to me, it looks like a for-profit death industry that only treats symptoms, that isn't interested in promoting natural health. It's not interested in promoting mental health. It's not interested in promoting encouraging the kind of life decisions that lead to a physically and mentally and spiritually healthy populace. And that what we have is untenable. But replacing the name of the company without changing ownership of the business, or like standing up to power by telling power that you want to give it more power,
Right.
Doesn't seem like a good solution to me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree with your assessment of what our current healthcare system is. It's designed to get you hooked on certain drugs that don't get you off of prescriptions. I mean, they're designed to get you addicted to prescriptions and dependent on them. And yeah, I mean, I look at it kind of the way everything else in our economy has gone. It's gotten to this point where you've got this corporatist oligarchy where the powerful businesses have bought off the government to legislate away any actual competition to whatever terrible product they're selling. And it's really bad in the medical industry, especially with patents on medicine, that exist forever. And, if you wanted to make the same product for less money, you're not able to. You're not enabling any sort of competition in the marketplace. So medicines can remain as high as they want them to. You have to go out of the country to get medicine at a lower cost. In lots of places, you can't even ship it in. You have to physically go outside the country to get it. That's why people do operations outside of the country sometimes. I mean, it's just a complete
medical tourism.
Yeah.
Is an industry, and that's a sentence that's real, and that's ridiculous.
Yep. Yeah. So I look at big business and big government as dependent upon each other for survival. And I don't think giving more power to either one is an effective way of reducing the problem. I think, I think that big business is kind of powerless without government protecting it. And I mean, because the fact that you get thrown into prison for trying to compete with these companies making a product similar to theirs or offering solutions makes it very hard to get anywhere. And if you didn't have that system in place, then you might actually be able to provide alternatives. So yeah, I'm not sold on the Medicare for all idea. I mean, it seems to me since the government has gotten more involved with healthcare, it's gotten worse. I mean, it seems like the top is making more money. Everything's getting more expensive. The value of healthcare is going down. And then you look at pretty much every area of our economy or our country where the government has its hands involved in something, it pretty much always gets worse. These are the same people who are murdering brown people overseas to enrich weapons contractors. And they have a complete monopoly on the military. So why are we wanting to give them a complete monopoly on our healthcare system? And, there's all these claims that, the problem is the middleman, the problem is the profit motive. And once the government is running it completely, that's all going to go away. I don't think the government lacks a profit motive. I mean,
No,
I think it
it
always
just doesn't create anything in order to generate an income.
right.
All it exists on taking.
Right.
It's what it's main function of a state. I hear the argument that it's all government's role in healthcare is going to be is being essentially the insurance company,
Right.
right? But I mean, you're 100% correct. Of course, there's a profit motive there. Healthcare makes up 18% of our GDP. That's almost a fifth of the economy that is generated in what essentially amounts to extortion. But I'd be like, that's huge. That's a significant portion. So for even for any governing entity to presumably remove a fifth of its GDP from the economic sector, that's guaranteeing some sort of depression. So of course they would want to account for that. There would have to be some sort of either slow and painful transition or immediate replacement of funds.
Right.
And how are you going to do that? And who do you think is going to get paid? I mean, if it's going to become a federal law, it has to be legislated, which means it has to go through Congress, which is the public relations firm for our oligarchs.
Yeah, I mean, even if you could get me to agree on the principle of Medicare for all, you've still got to sell me on the fact that you think you're somehow going to pass the bill in the form you want. When you look at all the other legislation that makes it through, if you're trying, I mean, right now, if you try to pass some school choice bill or something, it has new windmills for Colorado and, missiles going to Sudan and like all this crap jammed in it. It's going to be 1,500 pages long. No one's going to read it, and they'll all vote for it. I mean, that's the government we have. So even if you could convince me that this was a good idea, there's no way you're going to convince me that our Congress is going to pass it in a clean bill in the way that you want it. And then even after they pass it, that they're not going to completely destroy it and corrupt it and use it to benefit themselves.
Well, and again, I don't want people to hear that and take that to mean I discourage your activism. I don't.
Sure.
I don't. That's not what I'm saying. And there are a lot of people that jump on the everything's got to be binary, except for a couple of things which have to go up into the dozens. Otherwise, it's a hate crime. But everything else is binary. And so if you have a question about Medicare for all, you're automatically in favor of the aforementioned for-profit death system. No, it's not how the world works. It's not how anything works. That very rarely is a situation as nuanced and complex as universal health care a binary thing. I don't know. I don't know if with 335 million people, I mean, I don't believe in a federal government or a centralized state. So this guy, but I mean, even discounting that, let's, I do believe healthcare is a human right. I don't believe anybody should have to go bankrupt in order to, see a doctor. I don't think an aspirin should cost $112, but outside of that, no, because the mechanisms by which the federal government operates in no way, shape, or form are even designed to serve the people. So we're going to have a problem. And one of the rebuttals that I got was, well, why can't you just be for it so that it generates some change. Well, we took a look at the bill and we took a look at how many committees it has to go through, just like already how many it's gone through. And there were close to a dozen that had already got their hands on it.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes back to your point, like, what's it going to look like on the outside? Well, maybe it can't be done at a federal level anymore. Like the countries that are in the streets, and they've pointed out to me many times. Well, they can go in the streets because they have universal health care. Mm-hmm. They don't have to worry. Their health care isn't tied to their job. If they go out in the streets to protest for something, they don't run the risk of losing their health care if their job retaliates because their job has a different political viewpoint than they do and didn't like them at the protest. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fair. They've also had those programs for 70 years, 80 years in cases. Some of them, like right after World War II, rolled out the nationalized healthcare system. Mm-hmm. It's 2021. Like we have to look at our problems in real time. I think, like, we can look at history as a teacher. We should, but we have to have a realistic approach to how we deal with this shit.
Yeah. I mean, I've kind of gone down the slippery slope from minarchist to anarchist over the last year. And I used to think, the only thing that we can do is get people into office who are just going to vote no on everything. That was kind of my goal a year ago. Just get, if we just had nothing but Rand Pauls in there, just voting no on literally everything that came through. I was like, all right, that seems pretty much the only thing we can do at this point. I'm kind of past that now. I don't think we can get them in. I don't think they'll let them win. I don't think the system is going to allow it. So I don't know if they would rig every election against it necessarily, but they don't have to. They've got a massive propaganda that won't let anyone get anywhere. And I mean, they've got the will of the people still, unfortunately. We would like to think the people hate the government, but I don't think they do nearly enough. I think a lot of people are skeptical, but I don't think people on a massive scale have any idea how despicable our government is. So at this point, I think the best thing is just advocating decentralization and then doing illegal things. Like, I don't know if you know Dan Berman from Texas. He was smuggling insulin in from Mexico a few months ago and selling it for market price right at the Texas Capitol. That type of thing is what I'm all about right now. I think that's the only way to really fight against it. And if you can join a health insurance cooperative or something, if you qualify for one, trying to drain from the insurance corporations, things like that. At this point, I mean, the scales are tipped so far against us. I don't really see political action as far as trying to elect people to change things as being effective anymore. I mean, because right now we got 538 people in office and, 4 or 5 of them want to shrink the size of the government. So I don't know. I think that's kind of a lost cause at the federal level. I still believe in local elections, like state house or town committees, things like that. I think you can still make a difference, but trying to overtake U.S. Congress, I just don't really believe in it at this point. I'd love to have my mind changed on that, but.
Well, and I think that I have an especially pessimistic view about local government because I live in Santa Cruz County.
Sure.
And it is a tourist and college town and a tech town. So the outside influences and the outside money vastly overwhelms the locals' ability to do much of anything in the way of taking over a board of supervisors or a city council or anything like that. So I have a tainted view of it because of where I am. Now I'm about to move and I'm about to go to where there has historically been a very effective local government on a number of different fronts, both good and bad, depending on, how the prevailing narrative. But it's effective there. So it is really a case by case basis, depending on where you live. The idea of effective local government somewhere like New York City,
Yeah.
I don't think so, or Los Angeles. But I mean, these are places where the population centers spill out into the tens of millions.
Right.
You know, the states unto themselves. California is a country unto itself, the fifth largest economy in the world. You know, but also the highest population of homeless people, also the highest income inequality, also, you know, it's just, I mean, it adds up and adds up and adds up. The Stockton, California, where our tech guy, who's normally here, but his kid's in town, so he's hanging out with her. I mean, it's a fucking war zone, and LA looks like Stockton, just more spread out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you ever get into California on your yeah?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know. And you also know then that like California is not just LA, San Francisco, and Oakland and the Bay Area.
Right.
Like there's beautiful, wide open country where people are like pretty fucking laid back. Maybe don't like strangers too much, but are quick to get to know you. And fucking, it's not, you know, bullshit LA everywhere you go.
Yeah, I've been up in Klamath County, up near Oregon, and you know, around Redding and Humboldt County. I mean, out there, you wouldn't think you're in California if you've never been there before. You know, talked to a bunch of redneck conservatives out there in the woods who own guns, and you wouldn't think that. And then
even the dope growing hippies own guns in Humboldt. Well, here too, but I mean, the Santa Cruz Mountains is a little bit different than Santa Cruz, but Santa Cruz is where good NPR liberals go to die. Yep. Ronald Reagan famously said Orange County is where good Republicans go to die. Santa Cruz gets the liberals. They want you to fold your hands politely on your lap at a fucking concert.
Yeah.
I've been shushed at a live show.
Yeah, I mean, I love California. The geography, it's probably my favorite state. I've been to all 50, and California's pretty nice, especially all the parks you got there. I mean, you got some of the best in the country, and the beaches and the mountains, the redwoods, the sequoias, you know, you got it all. It's just too bad your government sucks so much.
Oh my God, man. And I've been saying it for some years now. I moved out here because when I first started coming out here, I was like, I've never seen any place so fucking beautiful in my entire life. I would like to die here. Yeah. And I've been here for about 15 years, and I've spent the last probably 8 of them wanting to get out. But the problem with being poor in California is that, sure, it's a hard place to get to, but it's a much, much, much harder place to leave.
Yeah.
And so...
Hotel California.
Working on it. Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Milk is $6.50 a gallon. Like, the cheap gas is $4.70 right now.
Yeah.
You know, like that's, I don't know. Fuck
We're
it.
catching up to you around the country with the gas prices. Don't worry.
I was gonna ask. I was.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we're usually about $1 cheaper than you guys, I think. So we're not at $2 a gallon anymore, though. We're up to here in Utah. It's almost $4, I think. It depends on where you get it, but it's ridiculous.
Yeah, Utah got a little spendy the last time I went through.
Yeah, when was that?
2015.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, because we drove when my dad passed away, we drove out to go hang out with my mom and my sister over Christmas. And just because at the time, like nobody in the whole fucking family but me had been, well, my youngest son had, but he was 2, but it had been like west of Reno.
Mm-hmm.
Or east of Reno. East of Reno. And I grew up in central Indiana. It's where my mom was still. So we drove across country. I got to hang out for a little bit in Utah, which again, topographically, fucking Utah is gorgeous. It is, man. It is. And I've got a couple of friends that live down like in the city of Moab.
Oh, yep.
And so we got like I used to do Renaissance festivals for a living. I've got friends all over the country. And so when I do travel and drive, it's like free place to stay everywhere. You don't have to drive, do the 22-hour fucking haul ass. Kind of nice. Kind of nice. But yeah, no, when we were in Utah, I just noticed like it really felt like the whole state had just upscaled its cost of living. Like substantially from what I had remembered from the early 2000s.
Yeah, it's all those California people moving here.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I've only lived here a year, but even in the year I've lived here, the population has exploded. They're just building nothing but subdivisions, pushing out into the desert in every direction. People who lived here their whole lives, they tell me this is becoming the new LA. Same with Denver. I lived in Denver for a while. That place is blowing up.
Me too. When I lived in Denver in the late 90s, and Boulder area, I lived in Fort Collins for a little bit too. Mm-hmm. The running joke was, did you hear that everyone stopped having sex in California? Yeah, they're all fucking here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was 20, almost not. Yeah, it was. It was a little bit over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
When that shit happened. And that was the tech bubble, the tail end of it, that exploded both the Boulder area and then like around Denver, or at least the first one. And that started the whole total reconstruction of the expressway where they tore up 25 for like ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah. Good times.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the only state that seems to be spared for the most part is Idaho and Wyoming, I guess. Those two aren't growing that fast, but I bet Idaho will once people figure out it's there. That's a pretty nice place to live. I got a family that lives up north there. I just drove through Wyoming on my way to Freedom Fest from here, and it's wide open still. So I don't know when they're going to figure that out, but they probably will.
How was Freedom Fest?
Well, I went to Pork Fest a little over a month ago,
mm-hmm.
and that's much more my speed. That's you would be people like you would be a normal sight there. People like
I have been invited. It's on the other side of the country, and unless somebody like magics up my ability to travel, it's pretty fucking hard.
Yeah,
my cost, like I'm about to reduce my cost of living, but Yeah. One of these years for sure, because I love that area out there.
Yeah, I was probably one of the most conservative people there, which gives you an idea of what it was like, and probably one of the more upper class people there too. And then at Freedom Fest, I was definitely one of the least conservative people and the lowest of the class there. So it was just a different dynamic. It was a lot of working class people there were hippies, nudists, Satanists, and then like militias, conservative leaning people. I mean, it had every demographic at Pork Fest. And then Freedom Fest was pretty much right libertarian and conservative. And that was about it. There were a few like left-leaning libertarians probably, but it was definitely a more right-wing deal. And a higher, donor class type thing. But still jived with a lot of people who ended up there, got to meet interesting people. So yeah, it was great. I've become a little bit of a celebrity in the libertarian world, which is a very important disclaimer because that does not take much. Like if you want name recognition, join the Libertarian Party. You will have it before long. It's a small pond, doesn't take long to rise to the top. But I was with Clint from Liberty Lockdown.
Yeah.
Who I know has been on the show too. I think with me at the same time, and but we were traveling together. We stayed together, pretty much did the whole event together. So yeah, it was pretty cool. Had a great time.
No, and I like Clint. I do. He's fucking the lovely man there.
Mhm.
Did you see the video he sent in to the Legion of Skanks for the contest?
I mean, I've heard about it. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, the video itself, dude, it starts out just fucking perfect. It does. Good shit. Fucking that dude, who was that dude with? Oh no, it was you guys, and you were in a car with Dave Smith, and it just kind of looked like the evolution of hair for a little bit. Fantastic.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not into interviewing candidates, and I don't do the whole I have it's a rule now. I won't. The last political candidate I interviewed, both me and Sleepy Josh, kind of immediately after the show went, okay, never again.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time. But so I'm hoping that I get a chance to talk to Dave before he decides to run for president, because that will ruin it. It'll totally fucking ruin it for me. That would be a shame. There was something. Okay, so check this out, dude. I'll pull up the video. We probably just let it run for a little bit while we talk about it. It just happened right before we went on the air. Friend of the show, Ford Fisher, his contributor down in Los Angeles. I thought the full video was there, Ford. I guess we can play. There it is. We'll pull that up. I'm good at this, by the way. When I'm my own tech guy, I'm good at it.
I believe in you.
Dude, there we go. So this is what happened. Okay, we'll just go through the thread and then we'll pull up. Did you see this?
I heard about it. I didn't see it.
Okay. So anti-mask protesters and counter-protesters, including SoCal Antifa, fought Thursday outside a breast cancer clinic in LA over the requirement that patients wear masks. Video and thread filmed by News to Share reports contributor Jake Lee Green. And I'm going to go all the way down to the full video. It's 7 minutes long, and we'll let that play. Come on, motherfucker.
You guys that hate the police, hey, you get off this now. Oh, God.
So this is because the cops aren't here. We Antifa are gonna take it upon ourselves to be the cops.
I love the irony. It's amazing.
There we go. It's a little bit better. I mean,
they have anti-fascist in their name, so it must be the case, no matter what. It's a good disclaimer. See, this is proving the conundrum right here. I always think it's funny how I'm going to use the generic left-right dichotomy here, but the right hates the rules, but they love the enforcement state, and the left loves the rules, but hates the enforcement state. So here you're getting a breakdown of what happens when you want rules, but you don't have an enforcement state. You want to force your will on other people, but there's no cops to do it, so then you start beating people up to make them do it yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
Nice. So is this increasing their health? Wearing a mask would? Is that the idea?
Do they feel like they have successfully prevented
transmission.
people from getting coronavirus by tackling a motherfucker and getting all up on. I mean, there's no thought here, Reed. There's no thought. The only thought is I am the law. That's what the thought is. I am the authority here. I am charge. I'm in charge. What I say goes.
Right.
And I've decided that the only way that we can deal with you is by acting exactly like the people we pretend to hate.
Yep.
Hashtag hate.
I mean, it's because I don't think a lot of these people are anti-coercion. They're just upset that they're not the ones doing the coercion. So, I mean, the reason they hate the cops is because the cops enforce some rules they don't like. It's not because they're aggressing on people as a principle. It's just, oh, there's this law that I don't like. If I throw a brick through the window of a Wendy's, I'm going to get arrested. So fuck the cops. You know, it's not really a principled stance of I don't like the fact that they steal money out of my paycheck and then use this enforcement arm to enforce laws that are against my will or against my concession or whatever. It's just the fact that there's an enforcement arm that's keeping them from doing what they want to do. I see that as the biggest difference, I think.
I'm gonna nuke this for the moment. I mean, it's just there's an interview that I'll probably pull up here in a bit that he got with it was either somebody that goes to the clinic or works at the clinic, but she was there as a counter protester. And I kind of want to hear that just because you slow down when there's a wreck. You do.
Yeah.
You can take a look. And at this point, it's clear that like she wasn't like, Jesus Christ, dude, you're gonna run up on a stranger because they're outside of the building protesting a decision that the building made. They haven't invaded the building.
Right.
They're out in front holding a protest, something that theoretically you support. Well, clearly because you're showing up to counter protest. So you at least believe in your right to counter protest. De facto, you kind of have to support the protest.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or at least the existence of it or their right to do so.
Yeah, I mean, you're not opposing tyranny or supporting liberty of people. You are just, you want your set of rules to reign. And so, you know, you're going to complain about human rights when they're restricting your freedom or whatever you view as your rights or whatever it is. But if it's somebody else's rights that you, when you disagree with the decisions they're making, then you have to intervene, and that's just not allowed. That can't be, you know, that can't fly.
I have long maintained this about Antifa and the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, and history has borne this out. But with Antifa specifically, and not that this necessarily applies to the other groups and what I'm about to describe, but for every like 106-pound skinny jeans wearing pink-haired fucking warrior that you show me, I will build you a fucking house if there's not an equal or greater number of cops in some way, shape, or form cop. And that when you have to go put on a costume to go fight somebody else who had to put on a costume before they went to fight you, and everybody knows who's fighting everybody because everybody's got on the costumes, like, that's a show.
Mm-hmm.
That's a show. Now, who are you putting on the show for, and who's running the show? Oh, it's the same person running the show. Shit, you know. And I had a like hella late night show the other night, and Magnus was there. And I was like, "Ah, fuck it, come on, bullshit with us." So he did. He jumped in, and at one point, I asked him, like, "Okay, so if you know that the group is getting infiltrated and you know that there's shitbirds in it, why are you still with the group?" And he's like, "There's nobody out here that is advocating for the same things in an organized fashion." And it's like, essentially, like, yeah, but it's the only game in town. Like, I know that it's good, but you at least have the opportunity to meet people who aren't total pieces of shit, establish connections, and fucking hopefully build out your own family, your own community, and the kind of things that people are going to need if when shit hits the fan. Like, nobody's going. Yes, individualism is a wonderful thing, but no one can do it by themselves all day every day.
Right.
It's just not if you want to maintain your sanity.
Yeah. I mean, it's this unfortunate position we're in that everyone's been so brainwashed to desire control. There used to be this thing that libertarians said that most people are libertarian, they just don't know it yet.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I'm familiar with. I don't know if you know this or not. I was a Kokesh delegate last year. The first party I registered for in '96.
Yeah.
Was the Libertarian Party, because I identified with them much more as an 18-year-old in conservative Indiana that did like to smoke weed.
Yeah. So they have said that forever, that most people are libertarians. They don't know it yet. I think that is a load of shit. I do not think most people are libertarians. I think most people are authoritarians with no power. So they either want to be controlled or they want to control other people. The slice of society that wants to just be left alone and doesn't want to control anyone else is very small. So I don't know, man.
Theory about this.
You have a theory?
I have a theory about this, and I have a meme to illustrate my point, so you can tell that I'm serious about it.
All right.
No, so I saw this. This was first brought to my attention. Oh, god damn it, I can't get it to fucking do its own screen thingy. I guess that'll be fine. Because somebody, Fiorella, put up a post that was like, "Tell me your Myers-Briggs without telling me your Myers-Briggs," and somebody dropped this meme in here. Now, we've got, out of the 16 Myers-Briggs personalities, only 4 of them are wired as anti-authoritarian.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean that 25% of the country is authoritarian. I have no idea how these personalities break down. I have no idea if that's even a legitimate way to look at this. However, it did strike me as interesting that if that's accurate, that if only 1 out of every 16 people in any given room, or 4, out of every 16 people in a room is wired anti-authoritarian, 1 out of every 4, if you're in a room of 7 people, you could be the only person in that room that thinks the way that you do. Right. So the reason that people feel like they're alone in all of this shit, the reason that people feel like, maybe I am a little bit crazy. Nobody else in my family does this. None of my coworkers, blah, blah. It's because of that breakdown. Like, you normally only meet other anti-authoritarian people when you gather. And then everybody feels a sense of community and feels a sense of family at those events.
Right.
Because it's, for a lot of people, the first time or the only place where they get to gather with people statistically who are any way, shape, or form like them.
Yeah, that's true. It's weird going to these events and not being looked at like you have three heads when you talk about your ideas. I mean, it's just been so hardwired into us that we need a God. I think that's what it is. I mean, I'm not a religious person, and I think we've been told for so long throughout society that we need an authority figure to tell us how to live, and that we can't figure it out on our own. So some people still, grasp onto original religions of faith, and then other people have moved on to different forms. It could be the state or scientism or something, but we've all convinced ourselves that we can't do this on our own. We can't figure this out. We need someone to step in and punish us if we fuck up. And I think that's the poison right there. So I want to clarify. I don't think that's religious and non-religious in the sense of like Christian, Muslim, Jewish, or atheist or whatever. I think religion has become so pervasive that it just kind of covers all areas of life. We have these systems of authority that we need, and without them, we will just run amok and we'll all kill each other and rape each other. And I think that's bullshit. I don't think that's what'll happen.
Well, I do believe that and people that in the audience have heard me say this before, but I believe it to be true that as society has become more and more secular, the energy that went into a faith-based belief system or supernatural belief system got transferred into political ideology and identity. Sure. And now, whereas largely people used to, when they told you how they identified themselves, like I'm a blah blah blah, like Christian or Muslim, it's been replaced with Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, whatever, progressive, like however you want to. And like voting is the laziest and least political direct action you can make. Right. So why you would wrap your identity around that is beyond me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be a lifestyle you choose to live. And frankly, the libertarians are the only ones that I really constantly see trying to actually change their lifestyle to a different philosophy. A lot of these other people, it's all about who can we vote into office, and I'm just going to keep, living however I want to. Libertarians, a lot of them, try to get off the dollar, or they try to live within their means. They try to homestead. I would say what the left is really good at doing is going to protests and getting out in the street. So you could say that's a lifestyle change, I guess. But as far as like actual ownership of things, it's a lot less than what I see in the liberty movement. So I think if you internalize it and turn it into a way of life, into an actual philosophy, then it means more than that just, checking a box on a ballot every 4 years or every 2 years or whatever. And I think that the idea of individualism, self-ownership, responsibility, and I think a lot of those terms have ugly connotations, which they shouldn't. Like, to me, self-ownership and responsibility means, hey, I'm going to take care of my family and my next door neighbor. I'm going to take it upon myself to be a helpful member of society, whatever that means, instead of I'm going to advocate creating this system that I'm going to give money to and force everyone else to give money to that's going to be responsibly redistributed. Like, I think that's just an ass backwards way of looking at it. Like, take it upon yourself to, make a difference in whatever it is, carbon emissions or homelessness, or, helping your neighbor who needs help with his car or his medical payment or whatever. Like, try actually doing something in your own life that makes a difference. That's what I do. And I know a lot of people who do that themselves. And I think we need to really instill that on people, because I think the old religions are dying slowly. I think, I don't know how much longer Christianity, Islam, Judaism will remain a thing. I think eventually they're going to phase out. And a lot of people who don't buy these old faiths, they do turn to statism or something like that, scientism, because they have this ingrained feeling that they need something to tell them how to live. So I think the only way we can, I'm not so much anti-religion as I am anti-statism, or I'm against the godless people choosing to create a new god. I want them to
be it the state or AI.
Right. Whatever it is. Like that's my biggest thing, is trying to direct those people in a different direction, because I think they are going to become the majority eventually. I think we're trending that way.
When I move out of here, I am going up into Humboldt County, and I will be documenting the builds that I do, because I'm gonna do some cabins. I'm gonna do a broadcast studio, recording studio, which, by the way, like I want people to drop in and do a fucking episode in the middle of, like, Armageddon Acres or whatever we decide to call the place.
That gives me an excuse to go see the redwoods. I'd love to come up and see it. So.
And it's southern Humboldt, not too far from the coast, but a good like 40 minutes or so out from like Garberville-ish kind of area. So I mean, you're less than an hour away from hopping right on the Avenue of the Giants, and that's pretty fucking cool. But I'd want to document the builds, because I know that there are people that are sitting here watching right now, or will be watching this a little bit later on the replay, that have it in them to go and build their own home, to hook up off-grid power sources, to like learn these things and do these things. They either lack the confidence, or they lack seeing some other fucking idiot go and do it. And I do have, I've been a carpenter my whole fucking life, but I can explain this shit really well.
Right.
And so I'm hoping that even that has value to it, and as we go into, by their own words, documentation, governmental structures and how they operate, we're going into an era where smart cities are going to be a reality relatively soon, where the Internet of Things is already here. And that means telehealth. That means real-time 360-degree surveillance of the human organism, of every living organism. And I refuse to participate in that, So Derek Brose's concept with freedom cells and networks of people that live relatively in the same area, that are trying to establish ways of trade or counter economics, and going for a more sustainable existence that doesn't necessarily rely as much on any sort of centralized authority or any centralized power structure, is what I really mean there, for its own sustainability. That is abso-fucking-lutely key.
I think a lot of non-religious people mistakenly think that evolution is always a good thing. Evolution is always improvement, and evolution is not always improvement. The asteroid taking out the dinosaurs was evolution. That wasn't an improvement on the dinosaurs' part. I don't know if have you ever heard of the metaphor for Mount Improbability when it comes to evolution? So it's explaining why a certain species would top out somewhere and then not be able to evolve beyond that point, while other species kept evolving. So just picture a mountain with 20 different peaks on it, and say evolution can only go uphill. It can't go back downhill. So as you're headed up all these different canyons and valleys, if you don't choose wisely, you're going to end up at a point where you kind of top out, and then you're not going to be able to go back down. that's just where you're going to end at. I think, part of the human race continuing and flourishing or whatever is decision based, depending on what we do. And if we do hand it over to AI, I don't look at that as a flourishing humanity. I don't think existence equals flourishing.
I just want to say, man, the delivery on that was wonderful. That was beautiful. Sorry to interrupt.
Thanks, I appreciate it. But I think we need to choose our valley or our canyon or whatever wisely at this point, because evolution is going to continue, but that doesn't necessarily mean good things for us. And just because our creations can excel doesn't always mean the most excelling for us. I think that we're killing what makes us human at this point. It seems like we kind of peaked out somewhere where it was, it was great technology that was still being used by us. Like we were in the driver's seat, basically. And now we're kind of creeping beyond that point to where we're not going to be in the driver's seat anymore. We're basically going to be tools of whatever the technology is. And I think we're kind of already there, so I don't know. I mean, dude, I wish I was born in the 50s sometimes. I really do. But I don't know. We'll see what humanity decides to do over the next several decades.
Well, and I think a lot of that has to do with education, because there is inarguably a transhumanist or agenda that's being rolled out. There's inarguably a fourth industrial revolution that includes the complete commodification of nature.
Sure.
And the total surveillance of the human organism. And people either don't know about it, or when they hear about it, dismiss it as conspiracy theory, or they're into it. They're into it because we are filthy, dirty human beings who have recklessly mismanaged this planet, and it is on us to, in 5 years, reverse humanity's ills. And in order to do this, we don't have to stop bombing people. We don't have to stop tearing up the planet to extract the raw materials to run the Internet of Things. We just have to give up our autonomy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think Abby Martin's coming out with a documentary soon about the Pentagon and how just the Pentagon, even if we got rid of like every truck, every airplane, every factory all around the world, but the Pentagon kept going full speed, that pollution, the greenhouse gas effect, whatever, would all continue at the same rate, and it wouldn't make much of a difference. So, all these people who are freaking out about how the world's going to end, they, telling the farmer to get rid of his tractor, or the guy driving his F350 around that he needs to switch to a Tesla. I think your target is a little off.
You couldn't be more right. I have seen that right to repair is starting to work its way through in a number of places, though, and at least for farmers, that's huge. It's probably huge for you as a truck owner too, right?
Right to repair. You're gonna have to educate me on that.
For most all farmers, and most owner operators of large equipment, you don't get to repair your own machinery. You can own your machine, but there are proprietary components that make it so you have to take your rig into the dealer every time. And so your right to repair and maintain the equipment that you own has been taken away from you. Yep. So for years and years and years, there's a lot of small farmers that just get shit on and beat down because they're small farmers, have been lobbying for, in their own way, not because they have any fucking money, but just screaming about it, some sort of right to repair guarantee. and the fact that it has to be legislated, that they can't just orchestrate a successful boycott, demonstrates the sort of monopolies that people have on this shit, including superconductors, which is huge for any sort of large scale machinery operating, because it makes all of the other fucking silicone chips and shit like that. 65% of all superconductors are manufactured by 2 companies in Taiwan. And when one of them decides, like, no, I need to squeeze you guys a little bit more.
Yeah, we're gonna be fucked.
Yeah.
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 I never heard that term before, right to repair, but I mean, what you're talking about definitely exists. I mean, it's, you know, I don't own my truck. I'm a company driver. But same idea. Like there's a lot of things. I work for a small company. There's only 6 trucks, but if something breaks down, he does tend to have to send it into Kenworth to get it fixed. He can't do as much on the fly anymore. On my own personal level, you know, I own old vehicles because I want to remain autonomous, you know, as I can fix it myself. I don't need to go pay $200 for some electric sensor that goes out and, you know, buy a $40,000 car that once the warranty expires on is just a hunk of plastic that won't last nearly as long. You know, the truck I just got in an accident in, it was a 94 Toyota pickup, had 330,000 miles on it.
I have a 94 Chevy 1500.
Okay.
That is on its 3rd engine. Since I got it from my ex-wife's uncle. And he had just put new engine and new transmission in it before I picked it up. It went through a complete fucking front and back end over. Like, it just tits, dude. It was probably a $10,000 truck when I got it. And I did not pay that. And it's a fucking manual.
Nice.
So it's awesome. I probably stayed down at the Convo Couch's house about a month ago for some events that we were holding, and Fee was joking with me. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna steal your truck, take it for a joyride." I'm like, it's a stick. She's like,
oh, she can't drive a stick, huh?
Yeah. No, dude, millennials largely can't drive stick. Zoomers, nope.
I'm the rare exception. I got an 18 speed in my Kenworth, so you know.
Well, yeah. And I mean, let's be honest. In many ways, Reed, you are a unicorn. So you know, we'll just add this to that. But no, I mean, Jesus, dude, I'm poor, and I've always been relatively poor. So as an adult, I have always had to work on my own vehicles to whatever extent that I can. And so that incentivizes learning. I'm not a fantastic mechanic. I know my limits, but I'm also an active member in my community. So when something goes wrong with my vehicle, I can call one of my 5 mechanic buddies.
Yeah, dude, that 94, I bought it in Arizona in 2015.
Yeah.
I brought it to
Arizona vehicle.
49 states. The only state that thing didn't make it to was Hawaii. Drove it up to Alaska for 4 months. And then in the end of 2019, I was living in New Hampshire and I was going to move back out west again because I just got sick of the East Coast. And that thing was running on like 3.5 cylinders. It's a V6. And so I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to change the engine in this. So I changed the engine, changed the rear end, changed the suspension to the brakes, everything on it. And then I got another year out of it and then kaput. But you know, I mean, it gives you a personal connection to your vehicle, which I still think is valuable. You know, it's sort of like having your team of horses. I mean, we're just getting less and less and less connected with everything that we're doing. We're just having more and more done for us. And it's killing our connection with, I think that's killing our connection with the earth. You know, like a lot of these new age people or like tech people are all, they're saying they're all about nature, but it seems to me that the people who are most connected with nature are the ones who are blue collar workers, who are hunters, who are, you know, connected to what's going on. It gives them a feeling of unity with the earth, I guess, that a lot of these city slicker tech jobbies, they don't have any. They don't understand how anything works. They don't live outside. They don't.
Well, and I can testify to this. And if you ask anyone that knows me, the only thing I want out of life is be able to fish off of my deck. Like that's, I really don't want much. I'm willing to go through a lot in order to get that, but like in game, but here in the Santa Cruz Mountains, we are 40 minutes away and just over one road, 17-mile road from Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. So in 2005, some rat shit fucking home magazine published an article about how ridiculously undervalued the property was here and how close it was to Silicon Valley, and it's a magical enchanted forest getaway. And then the fucking crash of 08 through ever happened. So more of Silicon Valley swooped in. So now we have all of these flatlander fuckheads who don't appreciate the fact that we live in the redwood forest here. Right. They don't hang out here. They don't shop here. Their kids don't go to school here. And when they do, the fucking parents nimby it up like crazy and fucking want to get loud over the dumbest, most insignificant shit. We'll wage war about these kids at fucking 6 years old need to learn pronouns and they're chugging fucking hand sanitizer, but we're not going to teach them anything practical.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you love the earth, you'll take care of it, and you have to have a reason to love it, and so if it's your livelihood, if you're outside in it all the time, then your connection with it tends to be more genuine. And I mean, obviously, this is an extreme oversimplification. Of course, there are people in the city who love nature. They get out and hike or whatever. I mean, of course. But in general, I tend to see the people who live in the country understand it better, obviously, and also have an actual love for it that I don't think people from the city do, because I think people from the city, it's almost a projection they can put onto the peasants that they care about this and you don't, and you're ruining it, even though you're living in the high rise that's running off the coal plant,
Dude, I'm so glad you said that. This has been a common outburst among the Slow News Day team here. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they just want to feel good,
right?
Feel like they've done something, and then the natural inclination for someone with undeserved rewards is to lord that over everyone around them,
right?
And shame each and every person around them for not being the thing that they are clearly pretending to be.
Right.
That they didn't earn, work for, or deserve, but are somehow taking credit for.
Yeah. And I think this goes into more than just this. This is the whole racism thing, the whole white supremacy taking over the country or whatever. It's a way to make them feel good about themselves. And I mean, there are actual problems with class separations in this country and inner cities where people are poor. But I mean, actually trying to change that scenario would require some work. If you can just condemn bigotry or supremacy is evil, that's easy and it feels good, makes you feel like you've accomplished something.
Add a corporate slogan around your profile picture.
Exactly. Yeah.
We solved racism. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's not that. What's hilarious about the people who need to go for the gold medal in the virtue signaling Olympics every time they wake up, walk out the door, get online, to a person, are some of the most inwardly racist people I have ever encountered. And yes, I said inward. You heard me. You know, but I fucking it. It's such projection. Like, I made the joke before that America runs on gaslight, but like this is legit. It is just such blatant fucking projection that in order to maintain that delusion, you've got to become crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's been effective. You know, I don't know if it's always been this way. It seems like a sort of recent. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's not recent. I think it's just what I've said before is I think this propaganda has always worked. It just hasn't been as effective as it has recently because it's easier to get so many people on the same page now with iPhones and movies that push a certain agenda or whatever. Like back in the 30s, it was a lot harder to reach everyone with the exact same message because you had the radio, not everyone had it, no one had television back then. The newspapers might vary a little bit from town to town or whatever. Now it's very easy to have this constant narrative that's always blasted in your face. And, you know, you get, I think what the most well thought out part about all this is you don't need a lot of legislation or a lot of enforcement to make people act a certain way. You just get them to react to certain information out of fear or out of judgment or out of self-appeasement. And that's so much more, that's so much more effective than trying to force people to act a certain way. If you can make them willingly decide to be assholes to certain people because it makes them feel better or makes them feel safer, I mean, you've got the cat in the bag right there. That's
well, I mean, that's the one of the key aims of propaganda is to get people to push a morality that doesn't belong to them onto somebody else.
right.
And America, most propagandized country on the planet, fucking hands down, and it's dial your own propaganda.
Yeah.
And in most cases, the underlying narrative always reinforces the establishment narrative. And that shit with Antifa is fucking case in point.
Yeah, the amazing thing about America is they don't actually have to ban as much speech here as they do in other, like in North Korea, you can't get certain information. Here, they don't even have to bother doing that because people don't look for it. You know, they look for the angry or the hateful or whatever, you know, whatever gets the most clicks is what people sell, and what it's getting a lot of clicks because people like to see someone blaming our problems on a scapegoat, or as long as it's not you, as long as it has nothing to do with you, you don't have to change it all. It's everybody else's fault. Then it's what people want to hear, and they'll always bite onto that. So if you have someone telling them the truth, as long as they don't say anything too volatile, then the powers that be don't even have to do anything to them. You know, they can just be like, ha, look at this idiot. Look what he's saying. You know, like Ron Paul in 2012 or whatever. Like they didn't really have to silence him much. They just kind of laugh at him. And then it started taking off. And then they've had people in the wake of his movement that have said some stuff that was getting a little too close to home. So then, you know, they'll ban a couple of them. But the vast majority of people, they don't even have to actually get rid of. They have turned us into a joke that no one will listen to. And again, that's the enforcement versus public acceptance. I mean, as long as you can push the public acceptance in a way that benefits you, you're doing way better than trying to actively suppress information you don't like or suppress activities you don't like. Like get the sheep to herd themselves, and you're an effective authoritarian government.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic way of putting it. In 1981, then CIA Director William Casey said, "We will know our disinformation campaign is complete when nothing the American public believes is real."
Right.
And we are 40 years removed from that quote. And we have a merger of tech, social media, more or less monopolies, and the intelligence community.
Mm-hmm.
To what extent on your show are you certain? Like, I've been like, because I've been wondering this, and I've been having some conversations with other friends of mine that you know are content creators, and to varying degrees activists, and it's centered around that Medicare for All march like a month ago got infiltrated. They had like a fake thing where an actual like neo-Nazi was supposed to be the keynote speaker, and it was, you know, orchestrated to discredit the organizers and the event and blah blah blah. So we started, you know, just kind of grilling each other, you know, like, well,
Yeah.
how do you know, who knows, and how do we know, and to what degree of certainty like do we get to state, you know, when we say these things? And I've at least tried to always make perfectly clear that the last thing that I'm selling anyone is certainty.
Yeah. No, I do the same thing. I mean, I try to have people on my show who are experts. You know, I'll have Scott Horton on to talk about the war in Syria, or I'll have Ryan Dawson on to talk about 9/11, or, you know, I try to actually select people who are experts in those fields. Instead of me saying it, I'd rather just be a window for the normies or my audience to go check out these other people. Something recently that happened with me that was really dumb is it was about the vaccine, and I have never made any medical claims about the vaccine as far as whether it's some sort of depopulation scheme or if it's more dangerous than coronavirus or whatever. Like, I haven't challenged any of that. I've not told people to not go get it. All I have said is I'm not going to get it. And then I gave CDC statistics for why I don't feel like I need to get it. For my height, weight, age, health condition, I have less than 0.25% chance of dying from COVID-19, and then getting seriously ill from it is also extremely low. I'm also a truck driver, live alone, don't have a girlfriend or wife or kids, don't hang out with older people. I'm always alone. So I don't really need to get the vaccine to protect myself. And then as far as other people go, everyone who wants to get the vaccine is able to get it. So if you want to go get it, and you are protecting yourself. So what has made me decide to not get it, because I was pretty much neutral on it. I was like, I don't need it, but, you know, maybe I'll get it. I don't know. It was this rollout of vaccine passports, this massive propaganda campaign, kind of dehumanizing people who don't want to get it. You know, these suggestions that you should ditch your anti-vax friends, you know, that we might need to start separating vaccinated and unvaccinated people in stadiums. And so after this came out, I was like, all right, you know what? Fuck you. I'm not going to get it. I'm going to stand with these people who, you know, have decided they don't want to get it. And I don't approve of this dehumanization campaign that you're doing. And so a lot of people took that as, oh, Reed doesn't like peer pressure, so he's going to oppose anything you tell him to do. So if you tell him to brush his teeth, he's going to say no. It's like, okay, that's obviously not what I'm saying. And I just laid it out on here what my position is, and I have on Twitter, have on my own channel, but it doesn't matter. People will paint whatever they want your narrative to be, and you know, they'll crucify you for it. So to an extent, it doesn't even matter how certain you act or what you say to some extent, because people will make it out to be whatever they want.
No, you're 100% correct on that. And what I just have Tour in Italy up right now for their vaccine passports. I was going to kind of go through just in the background show all of the places all over the world where they're resisting this. And this is why I said that. I put the tweet out yesterday. It fucking was kind of, I don't know, going off a little bit to you in the DMs about it earlier. But I mean, around the world, people have been out in the streets resisting what putting their government in charge of healthcare is giving them. And then here we've got 55 cities where they're begging the government to give them healthcare. Right. And I mean, again, if we had it for 70 years, 50 years, 30 years, you know, we would be having an entirely different conversation. And you know for a fact that private insurance would be trying to destabilize whatever national health service we had, because they do it everywhere else. And I think that I believe that healthcare is a human right. I do. I think that fucking predatory companies that are charging, hospitals that are charging, you know, $100 for a fucking aspirin, $18,000 for an MRI. That's fucking extortion. That's making people choose between feeding their family, paying their bills, or being able to walk, or have a fucking shoulder that they can still pick up things at work at their job. You know, shit like that, dude. Like, that's cruel and unnecessary. But I do believe that, like, there is a way to find a solution that doesn't cost any actual human or civil or legal rights or liberties. Really do. Like, the idea that fucking every company that buys data on the planet will be able to access my health records is, you know, pretty fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. I kind of take a stance on this type of stuff that a lot of libertarians disagree with me on, but I tend to be an accelerationist, because I feel like you don't see pushback unless things are done overtly and blatantly. And, you know, that's what's happening in the US. They're boiling the frogs slowly. In these other countries, they straight up, they instated vaccine passports, right? It's not a debate. It's just they have them and people are fighting against them, right?
Yeah. Well, in the UK, I'll pull up that video, which is no longer a part of the EU. But yeah, I mean, these are all being rolled out
right
now. And
so in the United States, they've just been talked about.
In the US, they've merely been this, but they did do that thing where they had like vax segregated concert.
Sure, yeah.
And they're trying to do that. I mean, actually, dude, every store right now, mask up unless you've got the jabby jab,
which is fine as long as they're not asking for a passport, because I just identify as vaccinated. So
right. Yeah. No, this whole time I've been wondering if I could do that, if I could identify as vaccinated. Yeah,
it works.
And I mean, so I've got friends that are on both sides of the coin on that, where like I was on a Union of the Unwanted panel the last time that I was on with Dr. Judy, and she was like, lie, just lie, tell him you know, blah blah. And a number of the people on the panel were like, no, you know, I'm uncomfortable doing that, and any, you know, and besides, I want people to know why I didn't do it. You know, I refused to take it, and this, that, and the other. And so there's merits to both of it. But I'm low. Like, I've been here 15 years, and I don't like to go into Santa Cruz. People here know me, you know. So I've only had one person who was in a bad enough mood that day to be like, I know you're not vaccinated. Why do you have your mask? Why don't you have a mask on? You know, and I'm like, you've seen my medical records. You're not my doctor. You're not anyone who works at my nurse's office. Should I go have you arrested? No. Is that what you're trying to do today? Like, what? How did you obtain? And fuck it'll back down for it. But it's fucking ridiculous, man. I got to show you this in case you haven't seen it. I don't know how long you have. We've been going about 90 minutes. I usually wrap about now-ish. For that, I think we have an anonymous bites back show later too. But have you seen this yet? This is UK vaccines minister saying people jabbed with placebos during the vaccine trials will have the same privileges as those who are fully vaccinated.
I have not seen this.
This is the first time in the entire Rona process where I have even heard the word placebo.
Yeah, I've thought it a lot. I just haven't heard it.
Well, I want to, yeah. Oh, come on. Volume.
On the Novavax trial participants, they will have their vaccine pass in the United Kingdom. And of course, we're working with other countries to make sure that is recognized. But as far as the UK is concerned, they will be considered as fully vaccinated, whether they've had the placebo or the vaccine. On her very good.
So,
yeah, I'm like I said, I don't try to speculate when I don't have any idea. Because I do know people who have gotten the Delta variant after the vaccine, and they said that it didn't phase them at all. And then I know some people who have died from the Delta variant. So I don't know. I mean, I think from what I know, it seems like there are certain demographics that this can really fuck you up, and the vaccine can help. I mean, the vaccine will lessen the symptoms, but it seems to be pretty exclusive demographics. It seems to be old, overweight people with underlying health issues. And obviously there are times when that's not the case, but I don't know. Like, I do think a lot of people took it as a placebo and they probably didn't have to. And so that's why I'm upset about this dehumanization campaign for people who decide not to. I mean, if it makes you feel better, go get it. Like, I was considering getting it. I wasn't terrified of it, but this reaction to people who decide not to get it, I just think is ridiculous.
It is so it's driven to be that over the top. And that's what bothers me about it too, is that this is a manufactured outrage.
Right.
This is, the amount of billions of dollars that have been poured into the propaganda around the vaccines in general. And then this focus over the last several weeks to, there's no other way to put it, target people who have not taken the jabby jab.
Yeah.
It shows a desperation and a depravity that more people should find alarming.
Yeah, I mean, you typically don't need that type of propaganda machine if something is true. I mean, every time in history when you've had that amount of bullshit coming down the pipe, it's usually been because there's something else going on. And I think we've seen, there's been massive wealth redistribution throughout the last year and a half that's gone upward, massive control that's gone upward. I mean, just complete centralization of systems and of money supply, so to think that this was all about the disease, I think would be hilarious. I mean, I think it was a catalyst for control, just like anything else. Name your crisis. And the crises don't even have to always be manufactured. Sometimes they can just be monopolized on. But this one is looking like it may have been manufactured. So I don't know, man. I think people should be very skeptical of what's happening. And also, what I've noticed is whenever they're trying to do this type of stuff, the real battle usually isn't where all the attention is, right? They always try to distract you from what they're really trying to do. They get the right and the left fighting over something stupid. And to me, it does seem like that's been the vaccine or the masks. Like that has not been out of the spotlight at all. And I do think there's a massive money-making campaign going on with the vaccines. But at the same time, I think that the real culprit here might not be the vaccine because they're not taking any, they're not being careful at all to hide that. I feel like it's something that they can push on people to get them to hate each other. If you do get the vaccine, you're being a good human. If you don't, you're a bad human. Get them to fucking kill each other while this upward transfer of wealth continues, while the consolidation of the 1% overriding everybody else continues. I'm much more wary of that type of stuff going on. So even though I'm not getting the vaccine and I don't like masks and, I don't think COVID's the end of the world, I think it's important not to die on that hill of fighting the vaccine or COVID or, whatever. Like, I think it is ultimately a distraction from what they're really trying to do.
Well, and even Klaus Schwab himself agrees with you. He said the vaccine is the foundation for the fourth industrial revolution, and this is but a component of a much larger, as you said, like consolidation of resources and power and a massive wealth grab. And Donald Trump's defenders pretend that the CARES Act didn't happen and pretend that he didn't hand $5 trillion to the 0.01%, or that, people like Elon Musk and like Jeff Bezos didn't increase their wealth by, hundreds of billions, one of them becoming a trillionaire in the process. These are all just absent from the thought process. And I went on a bit of a rant the other night at the end of the call-in show, mostly because I needed to yell at the progressives for being the most gullible people on the fucking planet, far more so than the people who thought that Jesus handpicked the president. Like, and in it, I was like, look, it's oligarchs and the rest of us. There's not right and left is fucking. That's not where we are right now. The people who want you to believe in right and left don't believe in nation states.
Right.
So, and they're the ones that pull the levers of power. So maybe we should catch up a little bit. Yeah. And I have always felt like the role of independent media should be to make the people who don't want to be household names. Everybody talks about a shadow government. Some people have built a career on talking about a shadow government, but even they very rarely actually expose the people who are doing shit in the name of us, theoretically with our money, at least with theoretically our elected officials. Like, we need to know who they are. We do.
Yeah. I mean, you're seeing corporation and state work together to seize everything, BlackRock buying up all available real estate and the Federal Reserve basically funding them in their attempts. That's some scary shit. So if we're arguing about whether or not we should wear masks into Walmart, I think we're kind of missing the bigger picture.
Yeah, lost the plot. We'll read. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap. Thank you very much, man. It's been a great conversation. Please tell the audience where they can find you, how they can support you, what you got going on. And yeah, absolutely. Let me know if you're going to be out in Northern California. Would love to bump into you. I know a ton of great spots up there to go drop a line. Wait, there's good stuff going on.
Yeah, I would love to do it. That's one of my favorite places in the country up there in Northern California on the coast. So I'll take you up on that at some point. But yeah, you guys can find me on YouTube as The Naturalist Capitalist. Go subscribe to the channel there. And then I'm also on iTunes, Spotify, Apple, everywhere that Anchor provides audio podcast to. And then Twitter, I'm at Reed Coverdale. That's where, if you're just going to follow one, just follow that, because I post pretty much every video I put out. The link to my YouTube channels in my bio. And then if I'm going somewhere or going on someone else's show or something, you'll see notifications there. But yeah, man, thanks for having me on. I enjoyed the conversation as well.
Oh yeah, dude, appreciate it. Please do come back. And if you ever run out of smart or experts, smart people or experts to talk to, yeah, hit me up.
Right.
Y'all, we're gonna wrap for the day. I'm pretty sure Luber said something about an anonymous bites back later. I'm not 100% on that, but I never am. Reminder that we are entirely viewer supported, viewer funded. There's a link to the GoFundMe and the other crap. I think pretty much everywhere. We have a link tree now. I always forget that. But we do. Linktree Slow News Day. Maybe it's slow. No, it's Slow News Day Show. I was trying to be consistent. I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for supporting the show. Big shout out to my team who is all off doing other shit, and I'm at least gonna go do that for a while until I'm yelling into a microphone again. I love the hell out of you guys. Good luck to us all.